Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to RCI TV for round 2 of the European Masters Season 2. We started out last week at Imola for some multi-class madness on a Monday night, and we continue it here today at Circuit Paul Ricard. Le Castellet is the second venue on the calendar this season. With practice coming towards an end in the next few minutes, we'll be able to answer the all-important question we've had looming over us from the end of the first race of the season. Will Wolf Matuszka make it 2 for 2 in his title defense this season? Well, looking towards the end of practice, he's not top of the timing boards as Harry Conway, Wolf Matuszka and Gegely Gaspar round out that top 3. My name is Ryan Gill. I have Ryan Mawson alongside me today, and it is Stewie Harmon behind the cameras as well. Ryan, it's good to be back. After the first race on a Monday night, what are you expecting coming into Paul Ricard?
I'm expecting today is going to be fully on the day of Slipstream, who is going to be a bit like qualifying in a Formula One. No one is going to want to be the first car out on that because you lose that critical few tenths down the straight. But Paul Ricard, a circuit that a lot of drivers despise. I know a couple of people say it's more of a car park, really. It's just an overflow for the airport. It's certainly an interesting circuit. You have a bit of everything, and it actually is a lot harder to drive than you necessarily think, because all of your, the things that you use for reference are all taken away from you. It's all completely flat, and a lot of the curbs you can barely see. But today, it does look like it's a day for the mid-engines, the Lamborghini and the Audi topping the boards, whereas the new M4 GT3 car seems to be trailing a little bit.
Yeah, the M4 GT3 this time around not carrying any ballast for this race. We had it carrying about 25 kilos of ballast in the Imola race, but for here at Paul Ricard tonight, it will not have any additional ballast added to the car. Of course, it did get a little bit of an update, and there was a tweak to the BOP. So we've obviously decided that we will not be running that custom BOP on the BMW. We weren't going to run one at Paul Ricard for it anyway. So nothing would have changed in terms of what's happening at the moment. But the BMW has been tweaked slightly, so it'll be interesting to see how all of the drivers deal with those changes. But it's definitely a car that, with its popularity, it will find itself up towards the top of the timing table. So with about 40 seconds of practice remaining here, we do have a couple of new drivers joining the championship. We have William Stevenson actually joining us for the second round of the championship. Didn't take part in round 1, but thanks to the new mid-season sign-ups available on RCI, has now got involved here for the Connection Lost Racing team. And, well, surprise, surprise, Ryan Mawson, they're in the BMW M4 GT3.
And also, not a surprise, Connection Lost Racing already coming to the end of practice, sitting in 4th place, and that might not even be the full pace of what that car's got, knowing William Stevenson behind the wheel. But that car, I'm definitely going to want to see what it can do down the straight, because the BMW was built by BM for the Nordschleife, for the VLN. The gear ratios on it are very much geared for the Nürburgring. Might slightly pull into its favor here. It is a very long straight, but it depends if the engine's got enough power to even use all that long gearing.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that does come into play here. Paul Ricard, with the massive back straight that it has, will definitely, change things up to the likes of Imola. Of course, Imola, you need a much more focus on downforce, but here at Paul Ricard, whilst the corners are important, that back straight is enormous, and it really can benefit you if you can get a low wing setup working around this place. It's why some of the Porsches will struggle around here. I mean, Cermak, credit to him, up in 7th place at the moment, but of course practice is not the be-all end of the event here tonight. So we are into qualifying, and as it was last week and as it will be for the rest of the season as well, it is the GT4 cars that go out into qualifying first. So they will be out for the first 10 minutes of the session. They'll have the 1-minute overlap period to finish up any laps that they started before the end of their slot. And then once it is the final 10 minutes, it will be up to the GT3s to go out there and set their laps. So 10 minutes around here, Ryan Mawson. And much like a couple of the other tracks that we'll see on this calendar this season, Paul Ricard is a very big circuit, and well, you'll spend a considerable amount of your 10-minute slot just making your way around on an outlap.
Oh yeah, 10 minutes, especially for the GT4 cars, is not a lot of time to be qualifying, especially with GT4 cars. They do not benefit from the tyre warmers as the GT3 cars. These guys are going out on literally ambient temperature tyres. They are stone dead cold. And Paul Ricard, you get a little bit of heat through Sector 1 here as we see this is Ansfors coming out onto the back straight. You can see him weaving, trying to keep the heat in those tyres. The 1.8 update did make it so they cool off slightly, less, but only got a margin of heat. This long straight will just nuke any heat that you had. The number 5, or the number 85 even, Porsche, will be interested to see what this does. Porsche's GT4 car, I would say, is one of the more popular GT4 cars to drive. It seems to be a jack of all trades, but those BMs in a straight line, it's going to be hard for people like this to defend from them.
It is going to be hard for them to defend, and as we watch the outlaps going on at the moment from the GT4 cars, getting the heat into those tyres is going to be so critical. And with these 10-minute sessions, Brian, you don't really have the opportunity to, just go out, do an outlap, do a hot lap, and then come back in and go out again. And especially in the GT4 class, because you don't have the privilege of going out on preheated tyres. Of course, their tyres are stone cold. So realistically, I mean, you're looking at not just, this outlap, which is, a big waste of time. You're realistically looking at your first flying lap that you're going to do in pre-qualifying or actual qualifying. Your banker lap, you're also kind of just looking at that as a bit of a waste as well, because your tyres aren't going to be up to temperature either. And it's just going to be a lap where you feel like you're having to hold back so much of your pace.
What you can see coming through turn 1 and into this sector 1, car is still loose underneath. It wants to slide around. Obviously the GT4s don't benefit from as much aero, but you would expect a little bit more front end bite in some of the mechanical grip sections of the track, and it's just not quite there yet. They usually take, on a good track, on a track with a lot of corners, 2 to 3 laps. The other thing I just noticed there that we haven't quite talked about, driver, veering away from the outside of the track. Those little tiny bollards that you see on the outside of corners, they are the track limits. If you go over them, you will invalidate your lap. And in qualifying especially, invalidating your lap here would just be, absolutely tragic for a GT4 car. It's, really big waste. And with how close this field has been in round 1, you're not going to want to throw away any opportunity for, a time advance.
Definitely not. So as we watch Azenfors at the moment just fighting around to go around the circuit, and you can see the wheel twitching there as well on the Porsche Cayman GT4 at this moment in time, and one of a few Cayman GT4s that we have out here on the track for this evening. Coming up towards the final couple of corners now, and in a GT4 car you always feel, Brian Mawson, that some of these sections of the track, which are usually so quick, in the GT4 cars you just feel like you're going at an absolute snail's pace. But here we go then, as we come out of the final corner. What is the very first lap time for the GT4 qualifying session from Azenfors comes up towards the line and actually won't set a lap time. That lap will be chalked off as invalid, so it'll be Phil Roberts who goes across the line for the Triple R Academy team, who has the first flying lap of the session, but that will be immediately beaten out by the likes of Klaus Nearing and Mikhail Sundstrom, as we see a few other drivers cross the line as well. But Klaus Nearing up at the top immediately with a 2:05.1. I think we'll see that drop down into the 2:04s comfortably on the next time around.
Very much so, and the track as well is actually quite a moderate temperature. The 24 seat track temp It's not going to cook your tires, but it's just enough to get a bit of grip in them. But the engines will, they'll be a lot happier with this lower ambient 18C. Got some heavy air to chew on. I'm quite surprised as well, Michaela. Well, I'm surprised and not surprised. Michael Sundstrom in that Alpine going great guns. It's 7/10 off around the first lap, but for an Alpine, with the tiny, tiny little engine that has got, it's basically just a go-kart. It must be absolutely horror down the straight, but, going great guns for that, as actually the pole time now is in the 204s. Peter Henberg has taken that position, the 204.817.
So 2:04.817 for Henneberg is the fastest lap time of qualifying so far. We have just a few minutes left of the GT4 session. It really has gone by quickly here, and the GT3 cars will be getting ready to go out and do their qualifying session. They cannot leave the pit lane until 10 minutes remaining mark of the session. They are allowed to stack up at the end of pit lane. They can do that at any point in which they are available to drive in pit lane. No one's stacking up at the moment, which makes sense. You want to go out there and ruin the pressures that you have on your tyre. Eisenforce coming across the line again, and no valid lap for the 85 on the second run around. This is where you start to get a bit concerned, isn't it, Ryan Mawson? 2 laps on the board, not long left of the session. You really do need to pull something out of the bag here.
And looking at the time as well, it looks like he validated it at the last corner, once again trying to just haul the car away from the curbs and just get away from those track limit pads, as Hazeford goes into 9th place, 1.3 off the leader. But yeah, looking at those lap times, the 204s, 206 times, and when that Porsche crossed the line, he might even only have 1 lap left.
Yeah, so for some of the drivers out there getting a bit touch and go now with not having any laps on the leaderboard, but we have a new provisional pole sitter in GT4 crossing the line. Bart Matcher with a 2:04.722 in the Audi GT4. Bart Matcher suffered a rather frustrating round 1 at Imola. Almost thought of himself as a GT3 Magna at times, and then got slapped with a stop-and-go penalty as well for speeding in the pit lane. So looking for a much better round 2, and, well, judging by how qualifying is going at the moment, up into provisional pole and not doing too bad indeed. As we look down the order, in fact, as well, you can also see just within a 10th of a second is Henneberg, but then there are quite a few gaps forming between some of the GT4 cars, and I wonder, Ryan, if this is due to the differences in how some of these cars approach this circuit, like the Alpines of Mikael Sundstrom or Nicholas Nordqvist, who definitely are losing a lot on the straight on this particular circuit, but maybe gaining a bit more of that back in the corners enough to still keep them somewhat competitive.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting to see who holds the purple sector for what. Sectors 1 and 3 are still quite technical, quite twisty as we look on board from Mikael Sundstrom and that 899, the little Alpine. You can see it just happily darts around all the corners, but coming onto the straight here, the little 4-cylinder is revving away. It's just not, it's not got the same sort of oomph that the V10 Audis will do, and nothing really can do about that. You just have to play E-Car's strengths. If anything, their race is really going to be a case of handling. And actually, speaking of some of the cars who hadn't set a lap time, just squeaking into the end, Christopher Verstappen just pips it onto the second row with a 0.303 off the leader.
Christopher Verstappen leaving it late, but does get a lap time on the board, and we'll be glad to do so, but we'll need to see if they can pick up the pace any more towards the end of the session with one more flying lap. Martin Ulrich up into 4th place. That has demoted Verstappen back down, who has returned to the pit lane, so that will be their qualifying session over. We still have Bart Matcher up at the top, and he is out there at the moment. He is on a valid lap. His previous lap was invalidated, so this is going to be his last chance to improve. But Peter Henneberg has returned to the pit lane, so Bartmatcher's closest competitor for pole position in GT4 is now in the pit lane. Calandrino and Ulrich look like probably the most likely candidates to take that pole position off of him at the moment. I can tell you that Ulrich is down on his lap time by about a quarter of a second. Calandrino, who we're looking at here though at the moment, is up on his lap time by a couple of tenths of a second, but he needs to find just a little bit more if he wants to take this pole position.
He's got to keep that Porsche planted, and through some of the last corners is going to be difficult. Obviously, one of the mid-engine cars can have a bit of a tendency to snap on you. Just got to hope that the last corner is clean. We've seen people run wide here, and he does. He runs too wide. That will be an invalidated lap for the 120, I'm pretty sure, as he comes up to the line. And there you go. Last lap did not count.
So Calandrino, unfortunately, will not be able to take that fight towards the front row of the grid. And Bartmatcher improves on his lap time as well, right towards the end. That means he will set a 2:04.6 to go pole position for the second round of the season in the GT4 class. We see a Cole Trickle just coming across the line there now. But the GT3s, they are out for their qualifying session. We're just seeing the likes of Jordan Daly and I think Martin Ulrich as well coming to finish up their GT4 qualifying. Jordan Daly, nope, he's going to pull into the pit lane by the looks of it. He's not going to finish that flying lap. So that is your grid for GT4 decided. But here we go then. It's up to the GT3s now to see what they can do out here at Paul Ricard in the world. Look at this, Ryan Wilson. Andy Boardman letting Wolf Matuszka go on the back straight. Given the fact that the M4 is not the quickest in a straight line, do you think there's some chances of Boardman looking for a tow off the back of this Audi?
Well, if you were going to get a tow from anyone, you'd want it to be Wolf, you know, who can almost drive away from anyone, it seems, in that Audi. You've just got to hang on to the back somehow. I know definitely that if I saw the pink performance Audi, you know, big in my mirrors, I would be thinking, let's just get out of the way of Wolf and let him do it. But look at the train. I thought there might be a little bit more, actually. There's 4 in this train, but then I glanced over at the track map and there is a huge gaggle of cars all at the top. I think the GT3 is really going to be a slipstream fest, whereas the GT4s maybe you know, didn't think there was much point of it, but here we go. It's the reigning champion. It's Wolf Matuszka to take us around the GT3s.
So Wolf Matuszka then down towards in turn 1, nice and late on the brakes. Got to be careful to not run too close and over the anti-cut curbs here at Paul Ricard. Easy to invalidate your lap, as we have seen before with some of the GT4 cars. And a lot easier to do so here in the GT3. But look at Wolf maximising the entry, going as wide as he can coming into the third corner, and now we'll be able to see exactly how much the Audi can open up on the straights. You'll have heard about a lot of drivers with an ACC lately using the toe to their advantage to get an increase of speed on the straights. We'll wonder if Wolf Matuszka will be using that setup tweak to his advantage here. But onto the back straight we go now, up and into 5th gear, revving the engine as much as he can and into 6th, and now it's just a point of waiting and waiting and waiting until you get to Cygnus at the end of the Mistral straight. And you have to be so committed through this corner. You can lose so much of your lap time, but also gain so much of your lap time through this corner here if you can carry the speed. Don't run too wide across the sensors. And now the really tricky part of the circuit, the tight and twisty elements here that you have to get around. And if your car is set up right, it will feel really good through here. If it's not, it will be an absolute nightmare to manage. And oh, Wolf just losing the car slightly. You can see how much he's having to fight the wheel. This will not be the ideal banker lap for Wolf Matuszka. He will definitely be looking to go again for a much better lap time, but the lap is still looking to be valid, so it will be something for us to have a look at. And the big question will be, did Andy Boardman or anyone else behind get a good enough slipstream to maybe put a better banker lap on the board to start? There is Wolf Matuszka. It is into the 154s to start, and Andy Boardman and John Aracer both around a second back as Wolf Matuszka returns to the pit lane with immediate effect.
And I'm wondering on that if Wolf's actually thinking that there needs to be a bit of a setup or maybe a tyre pressure change, because it It did look slightly squirrely, that car, just managing to, put in a phenomenal banker lap despite with what was happening. It seemed to me like the start of the lap was much more planted. At the end, once the tires had got up to a bit of pressure, it got quite squirrely. I think he's gone to lower the tire pressures in that. But the other car that was dominating the practice, Harry Conway, goes fourth so far with the first flyer, a 155.2. But that car in practice was looking really strong, even without a tow. So I think the mid-engines might have something might have some fun here.
I have to see then what the mid-engine cars can pull out. This is really Film Alter at the moment in the 99 BMW M4 ET3, coming up towards the timing line at the moment, looking to get their first lap on the board here with just under 5 minutes to go, and up into 5th place it is for the number 99, putting themselves just behind the likes of Harry Conway and on the same row as Chermak in the Porsche. Here is Jarkko Torvinen though for FFS Racing. We saw him up towards the front of practice towards the beginning of the practice session, but here he goes in qualifying, first flying lap for Torvinen, and it's just within 0.3 of a second to Wolf Matuszka. So with about 0.3 of a second between Torvinen and Wolf, will Torvinen have enough left in the tank to go and challenge Wolf for that provisional pole position? Wolf Matuszka back in the pit lane. He is coming back out, so he will get at least one more flying lap out of this qualifying session, but it remains to be seen if Wolf can A, do a faster lap, and then also B, if Jarkko Torvinen and co can respond to that lap.
I think there will still be a little bit of time on Wolf's lap. We saw where the car sort of slid out from under him. I think that is definitely some time. It's interesting to see that. I'm wondering if Wolf was waiting, for an area where he could get some tow, waiting for a driver that, he could come out behind. See what happens to that Audi as Giggly Gaspar goes into the 14th place position. And here we come around again. Harry Conway, the Triple R. It was a 55 last time. This time it is a 54.6. Third place. Got it on the podium.
So Harry Conway up onto the second row of the grid. He'll be wanting more than that. He will want to start alongside the likes of Wolf Matuszka. The Lamborghini is particularly quick on the straight. And I kind of get the feeling that either Harry Conway or Jarkko Torvinen know that if they can be on the same row of the grid as Wolf Matuszka, not only will they have a chance down to beat him into turn 1, but when they come onto the Mistral Straight, they will be in the prime position to make a move on the very first lap, and that's what those Lamborghinis are going to be aiming for. Carlos Calatiud in the other Lamborghini Huracan is up into 6th place, so the Lamborghini's putting on a good show out here at Paul Ricard. Here comes Jarkko Torvinen, and he will go provisional pole over Wolf Matuszka by 0.003 of a second. So Wolf Matuszka, he has to go again if he wants those pole position points. He's coming towards the end of his outlap now. What can the 25 do in response as we look at the onboard here from Billy Octane?
It's incredibly close between all three at the top. Those, like I said, the Audis and the Lamborghinis really coming out to play. And then the BMWs all managing to sort of have their own little battles and filter out. Billy Octane up to the line. What will it be? It will be P10 for the Triple R Humble Silver team, 55.2.
Remember, Billy Octane qualified around down in 8th place in the very first race at Imola, and then managed to work his way up the positions throughout the course of the race as well. So did a very good job on the start, Billy Octane, and he'll be looking to replicate that here at Paul Ricard as well. Looking at Harry Conway, he's coming along again and he's up on his lap time, and there we go. Look at that, just over 0.1 of a second out, and he has pulled along to the side of the circuit. That will be Harry Conway's qualifying done, and 3rd place will be the highest that the number 29 Triple R car will go. Harry will have to hope there'll be no one around him improving enough to steal that 3rd place off of him as we watch Rudy Filmalter currently in 13th.
No, but looking at it, it does look like Will Stevenson as well, the 108, the cars that, could have possibly challenged. It just looks like the BMW doesn't quite have the edge at Paul Ricard. We're still, a lot of times, even when we're watching these races, we're still learning where the cars are good. The BM, obviously, the new deal A lot of times, even we don't quite know what's going on. As Jaakko Toivonen once again improves his time, just edging out that time to Wolf Matuszka. But even we're learning where the BM is good, and I'm gonna say, Ryan, that it's not good in a straight line.
No, I think those suspicions were confirmed rather early on with the BMW M4 GT3, and that's why it didn't really have any planned ballast for Paul Ricard or Monza for the pre-qualifying that we had in the World Tour. And well, looking at Schumann now coming up towards the line, they're going to improve on their lap time. They're up by quite a lot, and they'll throw themselves onto the second row of the grid. They'll have enough time left for one more flying lap if they can get a good lap together. Here's Gegely Gaspar coming up towards the line in the 81. They sit 15th at this point in time. They will cross the line, but they won't improve at all. They'll stay down in 15th place. Here is Wolf Matuszka. He's got to find, 33 thousandth of a second on this lap over the likes of Jaakko Toivonen to take back that pole position. Well, he's up by, is it just about enough at the moment? I think he is up by just enough at the moment, but he still has half a lap to go.
It is incredibly close. Just, you're dancing on the knife edge with this car, and you're dancing on the knife edge of the Delta. I think if anywhere where we're going to see, it's going to be coming into the Sector 3 after the top of the hill. Saw the car snake out from under Wolf there as he throws it in. You can see just using the weight transfer of the car to actually get it turned. Fully committed, and I think the person, if you're going to have any Audi driver to learn off, Wolf is going to be your man. He is one of the most experienced Audi drivers that I've ever known and seen in my time in ACC. This corner that was the problem corner, has that given him any time? It has. His Delta is up. Just got to hold it through the last few corners. Coming to the line, this could be a provisional pole.
Yeah, lost a bit of time towards the end of the back straight, but has gained it now through the third sector. Comes out of the final corner, looks to not invalidate the lap. He's up on his time. It's about 0.2 of a second. Comes up towards the timing line. It is pole position. It is back-to-back poles. But Wolf Matuszka throws it into the 53s right at the end of the session and takes pole position in style, but had to really, really work for it as Jaakko Toivonen put on the pressure towards the end of the session. And we have an Audi R8 LMS Evo on the front row alongside a Lamborghini Huracan as well. The highest of the BMW M4 GT3s is Schumann on the second row of the grid. And you can see the rest of the results down there as well. Conway will be starting on that second row. Will Stevenson, who is, of course, appearing for the first time this season, all the way up into 5th alongside Andy Boardman as well. So doing very, very well in his first outing. And then looking at the GT4 times, of course, Bart Matcher and Peter Henneberg taking the front row of the grid, followed by Klaas Nering and Calandrino as well. Ulrich and Verstappen rounding out third row of the grid. So, coming into this race, we are one round down, and of course that means we do have some championship standings to show, and it is Wolf Matuszka with 69 nice points at the top of the table. Marek Vons in the 91 has 58 points. He is not here tonight, unfortunately, so he will not be challenging Wolf Matuszka for the lead of the championship. Jaakko Toivonen, though, took third place, and he will be looking to add to that third place here tonight with Harry Conway just behind him in the race and also in the championship. Schumann as well alongside Harry Conway with 44 points. And Billy Octane in 6th with 43. Jake Boswell had a good outing in round 1, picks up 37 points with Guillaume Maz, Martin Lawrence and Thibault Roskam rounding out the top 10. Martin Lawrence, I believe, is here this evening. John Aracer and Rudy Filmolter have 25 and 23 points respectively. Nico Quizman Sabaceres, 21 and 19. And then Andy Boardman in the 69 car with 17 points. It is Ethan Scott, Nico Kumpu, Carlos Calaciad, Whittle, and Gegely Gaspar that round out the top 20 in GT3. And the last few GT3 cars that we have, Daniel Chermak, Emilio Garcia, Andrew Scharker, William Stephenson, and Martin Vitizen. Fortunately, four of those drivers, no points on the board. William Stephenson will be looking to add his first points season to his tally. In GT4, it was Calandrino that took the win last time out from Peter Henneberg and Mikhail Sundstrom, who ended up on the podium. And Martin Ulrich and Jurek Svenchak rounding out the top five. Christopher Verstappen and Nordqvist in 6th and 7th, with Klaus Nearing, Boris Hasselwood, and Matthew Kingston Lee rounding out the top 10 this time around. At the second part of the table, Cole Trickle is the new driver in the GT4 Pro class. He was bumped up from the AM class after round one. He has a points deduction from what he scored in the first round of the season in AM category, so he sits on 28 points. That puts him 11th in the standings, just above Jesper Eisenfors, Andreas Vikosland, Bart Matcher, who is starting on pole position here tonight for the GT4 class, and then Phil Roberts rounds out the point scorers in 15th place. We have Eric Engman and Jordan Daly both on 0 points, and Atabek Ertan fortunately had to sign out champion. So, Wolf Matuszka takes his second pole position of the season. But he's got that man alongside him, Jarkko Torvinen, who will be challenging him for the win here today at Circuit Paul Ricard. Do not underestimate the likes of Harry Conway or Benjamin Schumann in behind. Ryan Mawson, as we're just over a minute away from the start of the formation lap for the second round of the championship, I have to ask you the all-important question before we get underway tonight. Who is your money on for the win, if you're a betting man?
Oh, it's gonna be an incredibly close one. You know, at Imola, I would have said that I did bet on Wolf because there was a clear, advantage that Audi just seemed to be hooked up and really set up for Imola. Here, though, any one of those mid-engine, the front three mid-engines, I would say, has an incredible shot at it. The BMW, I'm just wondering if when you've actually got it in the slipstream, that might start to come into play. It might just be able to hang on enough where it can use the aero through the corners. I'm going to say for this race that Jarkko Torvinen is going to be the one that I'm watching. He had the best purple sector 3, and that's often sometimes the easier place to overtake him because you've already got past the long straight. So my money's going to be on Jarkko for this one.
Jarkko Torvinen is Ryan Mawson's pick for a winner here today, if you're a betting man. And, well, down in the GT4 class, it's going to be tight as well. Bart Matcher taking that pole position as well over Peter Henneberg. How will it all pan out in GT4? Wolf Matuszka gets the formation lap underway. It is a lovely evening here at the Circuit Paul Ricard, just past 8 o'clock in the evening. We will be having a sunset here during the race, and that's going to play into a bit of a factor for some of the drivers here tonight. Obviously, they'll have been practicing, they'll have raced here at Paul Ricard before, but it is a frustrating element that you can find sometimes in a race, isn't it, Ryan Mawson? The sun starting to set can potentially get in your eyes and, maybe just force a couple of mistakes out of a few people.
Well, the sun in your eyes and also the plummeting track temperatures. We're already starting off pretty cold at a 14. The track has, settled out to the ambient. I think once the sun starts getting really, really low, no cloud cover here to speak of, that can sometimes make it where the track cools off rather rapidly, and you have to factor that into your setup. If you're going for a full long, you're planning to go the whole race, you could find that you actually need to run a compromise, that the temp pressures are too high at the start and then they're good through the mid race and they're too low at the end. It then that starts playing into the pit stop strategy. So it will be interesting to see. Like you said, GT4, I don't think anything's settled in GT4. It's such a chaotic class that anything can happen. Traffic can happen. The cars, we don't know what a lot of these do in race trim. And yeah, I think for that, it's just going to be chaos.
Well, Monday multi-class madness is what the Monday Championship was known for, and there has definitely been some madness in the first round of the championship. The stewards for tonight, who will be looking over the race and live stewarding the event, will be hoping for a much quieter time this occasion. And of course, we'll be hoping for a much cleaner race as well. We'll be hoping for less penalties in the speeding and pit lane department. Every driver will be required to do a mandatory pit stop. And that will be indicated by the orange bar with the number 1 in it next to their name in the standings bar on the left-hand side of the screen. You can't see the information lap cinematic camera, but you can see getting ready towards the end of the circuit. We're into the 3rd sector now. Jarkko Torvinen weaving the car, getting those tyres nice and warm for the start of the race. And Ryan Mawson, surely for Jarkko Torvinen, he either has to beat Wolf Matuszka off the start and down into turn 1, or use the power of that Lamborghini in the straight to slipstream past him on the Mistral if he's really going to take advantage of what that car has to offer.
Yeah, you've got to pick your battle, Paul Ricard. You know, that's why I say a lot of times Sector 1 you can pass, but sometimes it's not necessarily, you know, a good thing to pass, because you just have the long straight. We see so many times the slipstream battles here, and the, you know, the back and forth of drivers. You sometimes see it where they're side by side all the way up the straight, and it's a game of who dares wins up the hill with that incredibly fast right-hander that will upset a lot of cars, even going with the correct racing line, let alone if you're pushed offline because there's someone next to you. But for the 25 and the 703, they're going to lead us away, and is going to be a real dash to turn 1, I think.
Well, 60 minutes of racing here ahead of us at Circuit Paul Ricard. The 2nd round of the Euromasters Season 2 is about to get underway. We are green for round 2 here, and it looks like Wolf Matuszka has had a very, very good start. We can see Carlos Calatayud out there in the background making a good start in the Lamborghini as well, jumping ahead, or trying to at least, of one of the M4 GT3s in the background. You can see Harry Conway and Benjamin Schumann going side to side, and Schumann just getting a bit out of shape as well. That will allow Harry Conway just enough, I think, towards turn 3 to take that corner and take the initiative here. He won't cut across the front of the BMW, but he will keep that 3rd place. Very, very important, but how will the straight pan out? And looking a bit further back in the field as well, no major incidents yet between any of the cars as all the drivers try and fit through the really, really tight Sector 1.
The accordion effect coming in, but everyone managing to avoid it this time as we flick back to the start. It looks like Wolf Matuszka has managed to pull out just enough of a gap. That's about a 0.5 second gap to Jarkko Torvinen and a 1 second gap to Harry Conway. Slipstream will still be acting there, but it's, you know, it gets less and less the more you get behind. And I mean, just look at this. It is a pure straight line. If you got a ruler on that, you'd be, you'd be quite amazed. Just a couple of drivers sort of peeking their nose out towards the end of it, and Benjamin Schumann having to defend already, I think, from the likes of Andy Boardman.
Yeah, a bit of a train of BMWs battling for 4th place. We've got a little bit of a race replay here. Mikael Sundström involved. Is this just a little bit of argy-bargy? Oh, there we go. Just a bit of a tap on Caladrino's Porsche, and that has forced Mikael Sundström to take to the side of the track. He has got the car going, and well, he is down towards 2nd to last position at the moment. Not great for Mikael Sundström. That's not what he wanted to start the race, but the most important thing is it shouldn't be too much damage to that car, and he should be able to get it back in to the fight fairly quickly. And here we go, Carlos Calatayud under pressure from Nico Kumpu. We've got a car into the pit lane already as the pit window has opened to get that mandatory pit stop out of the way early. That's Rudy Philmalter who has taken that decision. It's not a bad decision here, Ryan Mawson, if you are stuck towards the back and in the mid-pack and you feel like you have a lot more pace than those around you, but have to take advantage of that clean air. And with the GT4 cars here, not so easy to do that.
No, that's always the toss-up, you know, of going in early in multi-class. A lot of times, if it's single class, that can be quite the, the deciding factor if you're in the mid-pack. But with multi-class, it's really a tossing, you know, it's a coin toss of where are you going to come out versus them. As actually, we've got quite a lot of the GT4 cars in as well. We've decided the same strategy. You know, they want nothing to do with any of the battles up ahead. They just want to run their laps. But that also makes it like a lot like we saw at Imola. We'll put some added pressure on the 25 of Volkan Matushka when he starts catching up. And here's a sight that I'm sure most Porsche drivers will sorrow of, a straight for Daniel Cermak. And the Audi, there's just no challenge in that. It's right round the inside.
And Daniel Cermak, unfortunately, just the weaknesses of the Porsche exposed here at Paul Ricard, it has to be said, as we look back at Martin Ulrich at the moment. He's on the back of Nicholas Nordqvist, and that Alpine is another car as well where its weaknesses on the straight is very well exposed. A car that definitely struggles, as we can see, trickle just out wide there at the end of the Mistral straight. We'll have to hope he didn't pick up a warning for track limits there. Only get 3 of those until the game starts to punish you, and of course when it does, you'll get a drive-through penalty. You won't want to serve a drive-through here at Paul Ricard anyway. A deceivingly long pit lane here at Paul Ricard. It has 2 little sections to it, so something that the drivers will be keeping in mind as we see Ethan Scott and the likes of Billy Octane going side by side here. M4 versus Mercedes, and down towards turn 1, Billy Octane has the inside line, and ooh, one of the M4s coming from quite far back. I think that was Ceres coming back as well. Looked to have a look up the inside, didn't quite see enough space to do so, so had to back out. But was a very, very scary moment, I think, there in the mirrors of Billy Octane as Gegely Gaspar and Andros Saka get very, very close together.
Late on the brakes, as you even dare. That was Terrace. That's the A89 BMW. Incredibly late on the brakes. There was just about room to slot in, just about. And actually, looking at that rear wing of Ethan Scott, I see a couple of scratches and scrapes going on already in the early race. If you pick up aero damage here, it is so much more devastating than some of the other tracks because you lose all your top end speed. Speaking of, here comes the big V8 of the Mercedes, the car that used to be the benchmark for straight line speed. 2020 got a little bit bopped down, but it's still of no force to be reckoned with.
Oh, and round the outside of Billy Octane as well, and having to just keep the car within the limits of the track there as well. And this is one of the problems, that this is where the M4 will start to come back into its own in Sector 3, though, the more twisty part of the circuit, but Billy Octane's having a bit of a struggle as well. Oh, some contact there between Ethan Scott and Billy Octane. Billy Octane won't mind that too much, loves getting his elbows out as well, but that car just struggling a bit, it seems, at the moment, Ryan Borson. We saw a little bit of a damage on the back end of the number 33, and I wonder if that is starting to affect Billy Octane's lap time.
Well, also what can affect your lap time is, having to push and having to defend this early. As actually Billy Octane, he's coming into the pits. There you go. Decided the battle is slowing him up too much. But part of that, if you have to push and battle so hard early on in the race, you can very easily grain the tires just from putting so much load on them before they fully come up to temperature. That will then start to affect you for the rest of the whole race. You know, if you're not changing tires, which I think a lot of the GT3 drivers will not be changing tires here. So, yeah, it's one of those. I'm wondering if there's just a bit of early graining going on.
Well, Bart Matcher leads the way from the likes of Klaus Niering at the moment in the GT4 class. The pole sitter has got away, and these two have really broken away from the rest of the GT4 field, haven't they? Verstappen 2.9 seconds back. At the moment, of course, we did see a couple of the GT4s pit, like Calandrino, who was up towards the front as well. So it's going to be interesting when the pit stops are done to see how all that plays out. But at the moment, it's all going the way of Bart Matcher and Klaus Niering, who have pulled away and have pulled that gap. And for Bart Matcher here in the Audi as well, it is a very underrepresented car in the GT4 class. So it is fantastic to see it out here on the grid. But even more fantastic to see it out here at the front as well. And Klaus Niering, he'll have a lot of pace in a straight line with that BMW M4 GT4, which is very unlike the GT3 counterpart.
Yeah, the Audi seems to be a bit of an odd GT4 choice. I know a lot of people complain that the brakes are not good for a long stint. They do start to give off the more and more you push on them. But then you could say the same about the BMW GT4. I think that car's got so much straight line speed. A lot of people think the brakes are bad, and it's just the speed difference that you're carrying in. And I know a lot of cars suffer from that if unless you're driving, something really, really lightweight like a Porsche or a Jannetta or any sort of those cars. They'll feel great on the brakes. You realize you're doing 30 kilometers an hour under what any of the other cars might do. And William Stevenson in the sandwich in the middle here. Don't know if this is the best or the worst place to be because you have the slipstream of the of Andy Boardman in front. But then John O'Racer is getting the double toe behind. That is when you can easily get slingshotted.
We often see this, don't we, in a three-way battle. The car in the middle is often the one that loses out the most because they have, the dependency to put pressure on the car in front, but then they also have to be quite concerned about the car in behind, and it can lead to quite a few mistakes for drivers that are not too easy with dealing with the pressure. But looking on board with John O'Racer here, you can see that BMW M4 GT3 wheel with the Fantech logo on it. And coming up towards, well, just beyond now, the Mistral Straight, you can see how much John O'Racer is fighting with the wheel of the car at the moment. But Will Stevenson has not had a good run through that corner, and that's going to expose him now to the likes of John O'Racer. John O'Racer not throwing it up the inside, though. See that gap forming, but knew he didn't really have the pace or the ability to send it up the inside, so he's just going to stay in line and behind William Stevenson at the moment, with a 108 under pressure at the moment from the 699.
And that's what I was saying about, there's a couple of sectors which are easier to overtake, and actually it looks like William Stevenson, he will pull off into the pits. Quite a few drivers looking like they just want to take this early pit stop strategy, as we actually have some GT4 traffic, as Rudy Filmatter, incredibly twitchy is that car through some of the top of the hill. I know that corner though upsets a lot of cars if you don't get it the line exactly right, which is hard to do. There's a GT4 car on your line. That will definitely throw you off. But here we go for the people who've pitted early. Traffic is coming into play.
Yeah, and for Rudy Filmalter, that is one of the problems with pitting, on the first lap, like he did. It meant that he would have to work his way through the GT4 traffic first. And Billy Octane has kind of the same problem at the moment. I think, Ryan Mawson, if you're going to use the pit early strategy, what you want to do is you obviously want to pit once you've definitely got enough of a gap between yourself and the GT4 field, where you can get in, you can do your pit stop, you can get back out and not be behind them. You just come out ahead of them, because that will give you the maximum amount of time you can save, but not having to go out and lap them on a first time buy.
And we saw Marek Vons pull that strategy last week at Imola. It was almost like he was looking at the relative, and he picked the exact time to pit to come out, way before the GT4 sort of bundle. It was quite interesting to see, though, that even despite that, Wolf, just with the pace, he managed to hold on to it. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? In the undercut, you really have to make it work, but I have seen quite a few drivers actually able to do the overcut. Looking at where our leader is now, which is that little triangle on the track map, they are starting to come into some of the GT4 traffic that pitted very early.
Yeah, so Wolf Matuszka working his way through some of that GT4 traffic, and now Jarkko Torvinen, he'll be looking at this opportunity to try and close that gap as much as he can before he inevitably runs into the same traffic. This is Mikael Sundström at the moment in the 899. He is just behind the likes of Cole Trickle, who's picked up a drive-through penalty for track limits. Unfortunately, and here comes the Alpine right up to the back of the BMW. The BMW a bit squirmy at the moment, it would seem, through these corners, and this is probably where the M4 GT4 does struggle the most. I mean, it's amazing in a straight line for a GT4 car, but it does leave a lot to be desired for some of these sweeping corners where it just doesn't seem to have the mechanical grip that the smaller cars have available to them.
We could just see how tight and how much corner speed Mikael Sundström can carry. Look at this, right up to the back bumper of the BMW. I'm sure there's probably room for another coat of paint in there as Cole Trickle pulls off to serve his drive-through. Well, what was interesting as well on the onboard there, that at 260 kilometers an hour, that's not actually bad for the little Alpine.
No, it's not actually. That is quite good around here at Paul Ricard, but well, Mikael Sundström, maybe he's got a few tricks up his sleeve in terms of the setup for that little Alpine, and maybe it will do him good to get back up towards the front of the grid. He did struggle towards the start of the race with that little bit of contact on the very first lap. I can say, by the way, looking through a couple of the assessments from the stewards here today, Conor Morgan has just passed a few pieces of paper through the door at the moment. Incident on lap 1 between the 899 and the 120 is a racing incident. Incident on lap 2, turn 2 between the 747 and the 77 is a racing incident. Incident on lap 3, turn 1 between the 33 and the 34 is a racing incident. And then same 2, 34 and 33, lap 3, turn 13 is a warning for the 34 for avoidable contact. So no penalties coming out yet here, Ryan Mawson, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And it has been a very, very clean start to the race, which is quite different to what we had out at Imola.
Yeah, which is quite surprising. A lot of times you would say Paul Ricard, you see people, they start to get alongside the slipstream and they think that they just have to utilize it. You have to get by the driver. A lot of people sort of settle down and realize that they're starting to play a bit of the longer game as the sun continues to set and the temperatures continue to drop. And for Roskam in the 96, he's slowly picking his way through the field, the Audi straight line speed, using to his advantage, and that's Ethan Scott just up the way. You can see bright green Mercedes. You're chasing him down next. Wolf Matuszka pulled out a 6-second gap to Torvainen. Now, is this just Wolf's incredible pace, or has something happened to Torvainen?
Yeah, Jarkko Torvainen at the moment, he does seem to be stuck in a bit of traffic at this point. Wolf has managed to clear that little pack of GT4 cars at this stage, whereas it definitely seems like Torvainen is having a bit more difficulty navigating through them here, not catching them in the optimal spaces. And there you can see just having to go a bit wide out of the final corner as well. So not entirely ideal for the likes of Jarkko Torvainen, but there is a long way left of the race to go. But now he has a 7.1 second gap between himself and Wolf Matuszka. He'll be looking to make up a lot of that gap throughout the rest of the race when he could find clean air. But you have to remember, Ryan Mawson, they have another pack of GT4s to get through, and they're all on the back of the Mistral Straight at the moment. So Wolf Matuszka and Jarkko Torvainen, they're going to have to go for round 2 with the GT4 cars in a couple of laps' time.
And you'll catch them a lot quicker than you might realize. Just the speed differences between the GT3s, the GT4s. Cornering here, really puts it on. As Nicholas Nordqvist, it's once again, it's a little Alpine battle, trying to go up the inside using the corner speed. Was not to be. Porsche just about settles back in. And that is Cermak, that is the 13 Porsche off in the background. What's happened here?
Ooh.
Car just pulls off. Is that possible mechanical issue?
Yeah, that was going to be my first thought, is that been a hardware failure on Daniel Cermak's end? We'll hope it isn't, because it's never nice to see drivers experience a hardware failure, but ooh, I have seen that before, as Floris Arsvold and Nicholas Nordqvist just, have a little bit of touching with each other. Arsvold, not entirely sure if he gave back the place intentionally there, or if he just gave it back because of the loss of pace he had through the contact and going wide, but either way, nothing too much has happened between those two, and I think the stewards would probably let that one go as well.
Yeah, just a bit of touching. Funny to see the little Alpine as soon as the Porsche, probably one of the heavier GT4 cars, still trying to recover himself, and the little Alpine is just like a go-kart, just scurries away, like while he can, just get going. But we've got to the straight once again, which is why I said sometimes Sector 1 is not the best place to be ahead for an Alpine. I mean, what can you really do? You can try and break, give enough of a gap to break the slipstream, but I think it's going to be all in vain, especially if you've got any amount of aero on that car. I think for the teams it would be better if if you just unbolt the wing, just remove it. You don't need it here.
Yeah, so the Alpine, unfortunately, its lack of straight line speed not really helping it here at Circuit Paul Ricard. And we'll see here, Floris Hosford, this is where the Porsche, which isn't fantastic in a straight line either, but much, much better than the Alpine. You can see the difference there. They come towards the end of the straight now. The Porsche going to be on the inside line. Is Hosford going to get this done? Yes, looks like it is, but the Alpine's going to hang on the outside line. And this is going to force Hosford to maybe just go off of the optimal line that he would like to take through this corner now, because of Nicholas Nordquist forcing him to try and defend there. But this is where the Alpine starts to come a bit back into its own now through this sector of the circuit. And you can see Floris having to be really, really defensive here. Doesn't want to let Nicholas Nordquist back through. And the reason he doesn't want to let him back through is because if he lets him back through here, he's going to be stuck behind that Alpine for the entire of Sector 1 as well. He's going to have to just do the exact same thing he's just done on this lap on the main straight again.
Yeah, the little Alpine buzzing around the Porsche. You've got to keep those cars behind you. They have the phenomenal cornering. It's actually the Alpine pulls into the pits. They've got the phenomenal cornering, but they just sort of slow you up where it's needed, I would say. And there goes Wolf Matuszka, the race leader, and that will sort of indicate as well that is starting the GT4 traffic.
Yeah, so the GT4 traffic out in force, and Wolf Matuszka having to work his way through some of it as well. Jarkko Torvinen and the likes of Harry Conway will be coming across that traffic fairly soon. And Harry Conway actually has been catching up to Jarkko Torvinen throughout the initial wave of traffic, as we see Billy Octane going for a drift, gets past the likes of Sabaceres, but just carried a bit too much speed, I think, coming into this corner. Gave him the space though, and then just, I think, a bit too late on the brakes here, just carried too much speed, drift through the corner. Sabaceres will go back through, and Billy Octane, well, putting on one form of show for the crowd here at Paul Ricard. I'm not entirely sure they came to watch the BMW M4 GT3 drift through one of the sweeping corners, but that's what they've got to see for their money here today.
Yeah, well, obviously a great car control as well that managed to keep it. And here we go, Cole Trickle getting a little bit touchy-feely with, that's one of the Triple R Mercedes as well. That is John Daly in front. And here we go out to the main straight. I think as well the BMW versus the Mercedes, I think once again the BMW is going to have the straight line speed. You see Jordan Daly praying to the GT3, please give me some slipstream, help me. But I think it's all in vain. The big BMW is going to power round, but it's going to be another type of Alpine versus Porsche battle. This is Mercedes on BMW. One's got a little bit more handling, the other has a much more speed.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing for Cole Trickle, he's on the outside line there, and you can see he's backed out of it. Jordan Daly sensibly defending the inside line at Cygnus. So hard to overtake around the outside, unless you have such an amazing amount of grip in the car, and you can really use that speed difference to your advantage. And well, speaking of a speed difference, whoa! Billy Octane and Sabaceres getting very close again, and Billy Octane was absolutely flying along the back straight. I wonder if Sabaceres had a poor exit coming onto the Mistral, because that allowed Billy Octane to have a fantastic run on him. He's got past, and it doesn't look like he's going to try Tokyo Drift through the sweeper this time around. And Billy Octane has got the move done on the 899, and it has stuck this time.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal slingshot. I'm wondering as well, perhaps poor exit, perhaps a little bit of damage, from a bit of a argy-bargy earlier on, or the gear ratios are so long on that BMW. I'm wondering if you have the slipstream and you can just creep back into the power band, that's where you can start to really properly accelerate. Where cars like Wolf Matuszka, the V10, the naturally aspirated cars that were P1, 2, and 3, their power band is very smooth, very linear. They don't need any help to get into it.
And we can see the leader in GT3 and GT4 both in that picture just there. Both of them being Audis as well. And, oh, Phil Roberts who... Mistake. Whoa. And that Mercedes snapped in a very, very weird way. That's caused Phil Roberts to return to the pit lane immediately. He's decided that whatever damage he's got on that car, he doesn't want to drive back to pit lane. So Phil Roberts back in the pits, unfortunately for him. We'll hope to see him back out at some point in the remainder of this session. Here's Nico Kuizma, and he's chasing down RCI's very own Jake Boswell at the moment, taking a break from Monday broadcasting and out here racing for the Triple R team in the number 47 in the Triple R colours. And, well, Nico Kuizma very, very close to the back of him at the moment, but the battle for 8th place, it seems, at the moment as the sun continues to set around the Castellan.
Yeah, the sun is really starting to get into that, you know, eye level coming down. You can see the main straight. The sun is to our top left of the broadcast camera as it was there. And through, you know, this sector, through sector 1's turn 1, 2, it is really, really in your eyes. Luckily, towards the back half of it, the grandstand actually blocks the sun when it starts to set even lower. So sunrise is probably a little bit worse than sunset, I would say. But yeah, hopefully the Mercedes comes back out. We've had a great show from the Triple R, you know, this season as well. I think they've had 4 cars. Is it they're running 5 cars?
Harry Conway, Billy Octane, Jordan Daly, Phil Roberts, and Jake Boswell. So 5 cars, in fact. And they've got Jesse Lee in the AM split as well.
There we go. Technically 6 cars over 2 splits and a very distinctive livery. So, you know, good to see them all running out at the same time. It's kind of fun when you see each other later on in the race when they'll pass in traffic, the liveries lining up. And what has happened here? GT4 versus the GT3. Ooh. And a little bit of touchy touch there.
Andreas Vikosland there just getting involved with one of the GT3 cars. That was Giggly Gaspar by the looks of it. In the 81, here is the onboard with Mikhail Sundstrom and the very unique looking Alpine steering wheel. I have to say, Ryan Wilson, I need to know, what is your opinion on the Alpine steering wheel with the display very much on the wheel instead of the dashboard of the car?
I mean, it is peculiar, but it does remind me a lot of the like Porsche RSR GTE cars, you know, that always seem to have a huge display and many dials on the steering wheel. It's one of those as a driver. I don't know what I prefer more. If it's on the wheel, you know, it is more in your vision rather than obscured by it. Obviously, if you're going around a corner, your dashboard is upside down. Then again, I'm sure people will say you shouldn't be looking at your dashboard while you're going through a corner.
Probably so, and we have the first penalty of the race out, by the way. Eisenfors in the 85 GT4 Porsche has been given a drive-through penalty, and that drive-through penalty has been given for causing contact with the 96. Now, the 96, I believe, was Daniel Chermak, who we unfortunately saw retire through whatever incident he had, where his car had to pull off the circuit. Actually, no, 96, sorry, isn't Daniel Chermak, it's Thibaut Roskam I've just seen. Getting my numbers mixed up, but no, sorry, Thibaut Roskam is the 96. So, incident between Porsche and Audi in different classes, and it's a drive-through for Eisenfors. In that scenario, Cole Trickle has come into the pit lane. He served his drive-through penalty already, and it appears he's now got another drive-through penalty, and I'm guessing that's probably for speeding in pit lane.
So once again, people getting caught out as John Racer has a hard snap coming into the hard banked right-hander, similar to well, very similar to how Billy Octane had it not a couple of laps ago. Billy put on a monumental drift, and that time got snapped out from under him. And this Billy Octane, speaking of getting a slight tap from the 889,
getting a slight tap as well, and that probably explains a bit why the 889 is much closer. And here we go onto the back straight. Little GT4's getting involved here as well, and Billy Octane really making Samaseries work for this one. Doesn't want to give it up easily. He's going to defend that inside line. He's going to come back across as they come into the corner. The thing about Billy Octane is, if he's involved in a battle, he's going to fight you hard for that position. He will not give it up easily. And just the little Alpine of Nicholas Norquist moving well out of the way, saying, no, I've seen what's behind me. I'm not getting involved in this one at all. You guys go on ahead.
I mean, I think you could lose the little Alpine in the grill of one of those BMWs, looked in the mirror and decided that, you know what, it's actually best for my race if I just get out of the way here. I'm just going to go off the track. Sitting there, saying there's not enough space there. If you want to throw it up the inside, you can try, but it won't work.
Tabaseris as well, so committed on the back of Billy Octane as well. Full belief that Billy Octane was going to brake at the exact point that he would expect him to brake to, so he could stay as close as he can to the back of the number 33. And it looks like, as Billy Octane just gone a bit deeper into the corner, and as Tabaseris just about sticking with him. They got past Jordan Daly just there, as you saw, going on the start-finish straight. He's one of the other Triple R cars, and now we're on to the Mistral straight again, and the big question is going to be, how much can Tabaseris take out of Billy Octane? You know, he's got the slipstream, he's in behind. The big question is going to be maybe the setup difference on these cars, where one of the drivers might be running much lower wing than the other, because here at Paul Ricard you do have the ability to kind of change the setup, you know, a bit. It's not like Monza where you're basically not running zero wing, you're punishing yourself on the straights. But here at Paul Ricard, you can kind of, in a way, Ryan Mawson, tweak the car towards maybe more downforce or more straight line speed, depending on what you're more comfortable with.
Oh yeah, and I've known drivers that can run, you know, almost the same lap times as, as some of the other cars by just having that amazing handling. I know a Porsche driver, and me and him were pretty much identical lap times. But he was going absolutely full handling, and I had my Bentley set up full speed. It plays out, but in a race, I have a feeling that the straight line speed is the slightly stronger setup, just because the nature of it. You get stuck behind people, you can't use your cornering like we see with the 21. This is a Nogfist again, the little fluoro yellow Alpine. You can see how much more cornering speed that the Alpine can carry, but you just can't do anything with it because the car in front of you is there. So, yeah, I think for those BMs that are battling between Billy and Terez, set up as well. And I think what has the damage done? From earlier, that little bump that they've had. One's got rear aero damage, one's got front aero damage.
Oh, and Tabaseris actually has just gone for a half spin. I've just seen on my monitor here. We'll get a little bit of an instant replay here, courtesy of our broadcaster Stewie, and you can just see coming in. He clips the anti-cut curb. The rear of the car lifts off the ground and manages to catch it. Very well done by the 889, but that has cost them significant amount of time to Billy Octane ahead, who was in the process of getting past the GT4. So that's time that Tabaseris has lost when they could have been gaining it back, and now there is a significant gap between the two of them, and Billy Octane will put his eyes forwards to Rudy Philmolter, who's about 4 seconds down the road.
Yeah, a sigh of relief for Octane, I'm sure. I'm looking at some of the the GT4 battles up and down the straight. This is the look from the splitter of Martin Ulrichs from that Mercedes. The Alpine there just about in the mirror, but this is what I was mentioning, that every time, the Mercedes can hold this, but look at the speed of the Alpine through the top corner, and that is not an easy car to drive through some of these unsettling corners. It is a mid-engine car, as you can see, back in trying to step out there already, but managing to master that car. And even, this is the thing about a championship, you've got to take, the days where your car is not the best, make the most out of them. Both of the Alpines, I think, doing a great job of that.
Yeah, Nicholas Nordqvist and Mikael Sundström working as hard as they can to bring those Alpines high up the order. And Mikael Sundström, who had a very, very good round one, hoping to build on that result as well. The only GT4 car, by the way, that has not pitted at this point in time is Bart Matcher in the 404. He is still out there, still has to do his mandatory pit stop. And Bas Nering in the 23 is in second place over Christopher Verstappen in third for the GT4 class. So when Bart Matcher comes into the pit lane, I I mean, I would expect him to still be in the lead, but I guess it depends on if Klaus Nearing has been able to build on, you know, some clean air that he might have had when he was chasing down Bart Matcher before. So we'll have to see how all of that pans out. But Bart Matcher does still lead the way. We're looking at a replay here with likes of John Eraser and Andy Boardman. And it was John Eraser getting past Andy Boardman. We didn't quite see that on the replay, not having gone far back enough. But either way, John Eraser gets past Andy Boardman, who then goes into the pit lane. So Andy Boardman going to get his pit stop out of the way, as we do still have a significant portion of the GT3 field left to their pit stop. And Carlos Calatayud in the hashtag rules and FAQ Lamborghini is going strong here at the moment. 16 seconds off of Will Stephenson, but well, he's the second, right, well, was the second highest GT3 that's gone in and done a pit stop, but I get the feeling it's going to be Andy Boardman fields out just ahead of Carlos.
Yeah, and managing to be chased down slowly. That is Rudy Philmalter in the 99, just edging into view. It will be. It's going to be a hard one for Carlos to, to defend for this long left. 25 minutes, you will have definitely burnt off, and any sort of disadvantage that the BMW did have, having to run that heavy fuel, perhaps they didn't like it. That's going to slowly start to chip away, and he is well within the slipstream range as we look from on board. The Lamborghini, though, I'm pretty sure that car will not punch a very big hole in the air. If you wanted a car to slipstream behind, pick a Bentley or one of these huge BMWs, as he immediately moves to the left to try and break that toe.
Yeah, the Lamborghini does cut through the air nicely, but it's not exactly the best car to slipstream off of because of its great aerodynamics. Like you said, the Bentley punches a much, much bigger hole in the air because of the shape of the car. Same with the BMW M6 as well, the old BMW GT3. It's going to be weird calling the M6 the old BMW. Just the way it is now with the new M4 GT3. But Rudy Philmalter just closing in on the back of Carlos Calatayud. And the interesting question is going to be, Ryan Mawson, if Rudy Philmalter, if he can't catch up and get past the likes of Calatayud on the Mistral Straight because of the Lamborghini's, incredible pace that it can show on that main straight and on the start-finish straight as well, Rudy Philmalter has to be looking at places like Sector 1 and Sector 3 to get those moves done, as the GT4 leader Bart Matcher just has a little bit of contact with one of the GT3 cars. And I just wonder if that's a scenario, Ryan Mawson, where, GT4 on the inside, GT3 on the outside, the GT4s have a tendency to drift wide through some of the sweeping corners, and it's just, one of the GT3 cars not really keeping that in mind when going for an overtake.
Yeah, you've always got to remember that a lot of times the GT4 cannot, just tighten up and alter their line the same that you can in the GT3 cars. And I think Bart Matcher had pretty much the exact same last couple of weeks through Aquaman and Raleigh. And there you go, Rudy Philmalter in the 99. He did get by Carlos, but it's coming onto the straight. I mentioned that Sector 1 was possibly not the best place to overtake. We'll see if it works out for the 99 as we come on to the long old straight. Well in the slipstream. I mean, you can't even see the track in front of the BMW into 6th gear, revving out that V10, and here you go. Look, now it's starting to pull. Now it's reeling it in. I think it will be a pass up to 280 kilometers an hour.
Lamborghini incredibly fast on the straight. So you saw right towards the end there how much it was pulling on the BMW, and Billy Octane in the background as well. But look at that, Carlos Calatayud carries the speed beautifully through the kink at the end of the Mistral Straight and then carries it into the sweeper, gets past Rudy Philmalter, and does so at the perfect time as well, because Billy Octane has just arrived on the back of this battle. And, well, Billy Octane is driving fast at the moment, and he's going to want to get his way past the South African in the number 99 as quick as possible. And as someone who can speak from experience, Billy Octane is one of the drivers that you wouldn't really want behind you in the, latter stages of a race, because he will send it and he will not be sorry for the consequences that come out his way.
No, Billy Octane arrived on the scene at great pace, and just managing to catch up to that battle because they've been fighting, and we had just a little kiss from Wolf Matuszka as he goes by Christopher Verstappen. Similar thing, I think. Once again, just the differences in GT3 and GT4 there. Another replay. This is Mikael Sundstrom and the triple two. Triple two goes up onto the curb, comes out a little bit wide and taps the Alpine.
That just looks like impatience there, doesn't it? Just trying to get past Mikael Sundstrom on the inside of somewhere where you wouldn't really be overtaking a GT4 anyways. You have a massive straight coming up. There are better opportunities, but maybe just a bit of impatience there from the GT3 to get past Mikael Sundstrom. And here is Billy Octane now. Now, he's got the benefit of the double slipstream, because Rudy Filmalter's got the slipstream off Calatiad, and then Billy Octane has the slipstream off of both, but it doesn't feel like he's closing in too much, even towards the end of the straight here. So Billy Octane not really being able to take advantage of that slipstream, but look at how much pace he carries through the corner after the Mistral straight, and that does allow him to close up onto the back of Rudy Filmalter, and that, to me, kind of signals that Rudy Filmalter's not that confident going through that fast right-hander at the end of the Mistral straight. Just seems to lose a lot of pace compared to the cars around him.
Well, I would also say that, really signifies that Billy Octane is running an amount of aero on that car. He's got the wing and probably quite a decent amount of rake on that, whereas Rudy, I think, has taken the full slipstream approach and no wing, probably not much rake, and just trying to maximize the speed. As we just catch in the corner of our broadcast camera, Bart Matcher, the leader of the GT4, is in the pits. He has a 39.5 second gap to the BMW behind. I think with just a stop and go, it's a long old drive through this. It's going to be very close to nearing in the 23 when they come out.
Oh, but Klaus Nearing's been just about half spun. There was an incident between himself and Jarkko Torvinen, and that's given Bart Matcher some extra precious seconds. Oh, and it's just slightly too late on the brakes for Jarkko Torvinen, just taps him, half spins him as well. And Klaus Nearing loses some crucial time. Bart Matcher is out and through turn one at this point in time, and you just wonder, if he hadn't lost that time, Ryan Mawson, does Klaus Nearing come out maybe alongside Bart Matcher or slightly behind, possibly?
If it's about 5 seconds on the delta now, 4.95 that we've averaged out, I think he must have lost, at least 2 seconds. It would have been very, very close, if not alongside, with that Audi trying to get back up to speed. But Klaus Nearing, he does have the one advantage. His tyres are, continued warming up. The car has already done quite a few more laps. He continue at that pace. The Audi will take maybe one lap, to get back up to that race pace. And if you've got that clear air, you might just gain another couple of tenths on your rival in front.
Have to see how all that pans out then, as Martin Ulrich here is chasing down Floris Harsford in the Porsche 718 Cayman. And here comes the Mercedes GT4 onto the back straight. This is where it will start to have the advantage. It looks like the Porsche pulled away slightly on corner exit, but now this is where the straight line speed of the Merc comes in hand, and you can just see getting closer, and he's going to move to the inside line. This is the line that you want to make an overtake. No defense here from Floris Harsford is a bit strange, and well, look at that, just done before the corner as well. Martin Ulrich, fantastic move on the Porsche ahead, and here is Billy Octane on Rudy Filmalter, and he's not going to give this one up easily. Carlos Calatiad has already lost a place to both of them, it would seem, and Billy Octane putting so much pressure on the likes of Rudy Filmalter. Carlos Calatiad looking like he wants to try and take this back now, and it's holding up both of them. That allows Rudy to just build a little bit of a gap now, and Carlos Calatiad He will have been compromised coming out and onto the Mistral Straight, but so will Billy Octane, and now here comes the Lamborghini.
As you says, Billy Octane will not take a no for an answer coming into the end of this race, but Carlos Cotillon, that Lamborghini, even out of the slipstream, it is going to be alongside the BMW. Billy does appear to have the, the handling to go around the outside, just about keeps it in the anti-cut. And there's the Lamborghini still up the
Oh,
inside. Actually, Billy takes off the track.
Billy Octane, he has so much downforce going through the right-hander after the Mistral Straight, but this corner here is where he has struggled all race long, and we see it again, and Carlos Calatayud will be thinking, thank you very much, but the big news with 16.5 minutes remaining, Wolf Matuszka has a drive-through penalty for track limits. The Pink Performance Audi has taken too many liberties with track limits here today, and I can tell you right now that Jarkko Torvinen and Harry Conway have got big grins on their face.
And it shows you that absolutely no one has actually cast Calatayud just returning to the track there. We can catch a quick race replay of actually what happened off wide at the end. A little bit of a touch from the BMW, but it shows that nobody is safe from the track limits. Paul Ricard is very vicious when it comes to it. You run wide, it don't matter if you gain time, lost time, or any kind of time. It will give you a warning.
Yeah, and Wolf Matuszka has to serve that drive-through on this next lap that he's just started. So, unfortunately for him, he has to come in, serve the drive-through, and then do his mandatory pit stop. So, Wolf Matuszka, it doesn't look like it's going to be a win on this occasion. Jarkko Torvinen, though, he might still be under investigation for the incident between himself and Klaus Neering that we saw in the final sector. So he's not 100% in the clear from a penalty either at the moment. So Harry Conway sitting in third place, actually sitting quite comfortably and quite nicely there at the moment to capitalise not just on Wolf Matuszka's DT, but also on the likes that Jarkko Torvinen is under investigation at the moment, as it looks like the car behind Harry Conway, Benjamin Schumann, has now got a 15-second penalty. And that has come out for contact between themselves and the 899. We saw that contact, didn't we, Ryan Lawson? Coming out on towards the Mistral Straight, where we just saw Benjamin Schumann getting a bit impatient and just made contact with Mikhail, and that caused them to pick up a 15-second time penalty from the stewards, as Martin Ulrich has now picked up a drive-through for track limits in the 44 Mercedes GT4.
All the track limits coming out, right towards the end of it. People have been pushing so hard. Maybe got one or even two at the start of the race, before everything had settled down, and it's now just the final scrambles that are bringing out all of the people who've had one or two. But yeah, I think for Harry Conway, it's going to be, you just got to keep it clean, and that's all he has to do. John Aracer is, I think, too far back, realistically, unless Harry had a monumental issue. As Wolf dives into the pits, pit limiter on. It is a long, old pit straight, this. So yeah, for Harry Conway, I think it's going to be a great day.
Yeah, he's looking good at the moment. I've also received a bit of word that the Torvinen incident is, being looked at right now. So we'll have a decision on that incident fairly shortly. So Harry Conway looking good at the moment. The driver behind him's got a 15-second penalty. The driver ahead of him is under investigation for an incident. And then the leader has just had to serve a drive-through and still needs to serve that mandatory pit stop alongside the rest of the top six. So right now, things are falling in favour of the number 29 for Triple R, and Harry Conway, a bit earlier on in the race of how he had dropped back from the likes of Wolf Matuszka and Jarkko Torvinen, may not have been thinking that a win could be on the cards here today, but it definitely looks like it is falling further in his favour. Jarkko Torvinen, though, has put down the pedal, and he is really pushing at the moment. I wonder if he's aware of the fact that, he is under investigation. He could be handed a penalty, and he has been handed a penalty. It is 15 seconds to Jarkko Torvinen for that incident between himself and Klaus Neering. Multi-class accident. Of course, you can't return a position for a multi-class accident if you're not racing for the same position. And, well, Jarkko Torvinen has had to pay the price there. So this effectively means that Harry Conway leads the race, assuming that Jarkko Torvinen can't find another 6 seconds for the rest of the race.
Which that is going to be a monumental mountain to climb when you've got Harry Conway behind you. You know, matched machinery, 2 Lamborghinis, and all of them showed incredible pace in the qualifying and the practice. Realistically, I think 6 seconds might just be a bridge too far for Torvinen to pull out that. For both Matushka now, the race has entirely shifted gears from, you know, another win and you know, trying to get for the fastest lap pole position. It's now just a case of any points that are left on the table, you know, he needs to get by Nico Kumpu, pull out, and then still serve that pit stop.
Yeah, Nico Kuizma has picked up a drive-through penalty for track limits as well. More and more drivers as we get towards the end of the race picking up track limit penalties. And I mean, looking at Harry Conway at the moment on my monitor, he can see everything going on around him. He knows that Torvinen has a 15-second penalty. He knows that Wolf is now behind him and still needs to do his pit stop. I mean, for Harry Conway at this point in time, of course, you can't just dawdle around because Jarkko Torvinen is very quick. And, you know, if you do just waste your time, he will build up a 6-second gap. But, you know, Harry Conway at the moment, he has to be driving at about 95% just to keep himself safe from possibly picking up any warnings if he is possibly on the limit of what he can get away with warnings as well.
Oh yeah, you've now got to, you know, you've got to weigh up your, you know, your situation and backing off that 5%, making sure that the corners that are known for track limits, you take it that little bit easy, maybe costing yourself a couple of tenths a lap you can get away with when you need a 6-second gap to fall out. A couple of tenths a lap, that won't harm you, but as he says, you can't put the smug face on, sit back and just, you know, dawdle around like it's a Sunday drive. You still have to race and you still have to manage the traffic. What happened to Jarkko Torvinen could easily happen to Harry Conway if he's not careful. Speaking of, there's another bit of GT4 action going on here with the 22.
There is definitely some more GT4 action going on, and then Carlos Calati has picked up a 5-second penalty as well, by the way, for a little bit of an incident with a GT4, is it? No, with the 899, that's Sabaseries actually in the GT3. So 5-second penalty for unsafe rejoin and causing contact with Sabaseries. So that's been handed out to the number 30 of Carlos Calati. Well, Billy Octane and Will Stephenson going head-to-head here at the moment towards the end of the race. We have... oh, no, sorry, it's Jake Boswell, not Billy Octane. Towards the end of the race here. Less than 10 minutes to go. And these two stuck together at this point in time. 8th place would be another good result for Jake Boswell, who has been getting a bit more involved with the ACC stuff at the moment. Of course, Jake previously running a lot of the race room stuff we were doing here at RCI, but now that that has packed up, moving over towards ACC a bit more full-time, and definitely giving himself a good account here in the pro class as we look towards Nico Kuizma, who has come out from serving his drive-through penalty for track limits. He's now on the back of Gegli Gaspar.
Yeah, come back out in 18th position, so out of the point scorers, and with 8 minutes to go, you're not really racing for any kind of, you know, championship winning points, but every single one is, you know, it's a matter of pride, just getting a bit up the road. The last point scoring car might actually end up being, it might actually just be Gegli Gaspar in front with that 5-second penalty for Carlos. That might shake it up. So yeah, that might actually be why Nico Kuizma needs to push, thinking about it.
8 minutes of the race remaining then, and there are battles all across the circuit in different classes as well. But just to run you through the situation at the moment, Jarkko Torvinen leads with a 15-second penalty, which means Harry Conway is effectively the provisional leader of the race. And then Benjamin Schumann in third behind also has a 15-second penalty, so that would promote the likes of John Aracer and Nico Kumpu and Wolf Matushka up ahead of him as well. So Plenty still going on in the GT3 class. Down in GT4, it is Boltmatcher that leads the way by 6.8 seconds over Klaus Nearing, who is 3.3 seconds ahead of Christopher Verstappen. In the GT4 class, it is quietening down towards the front, although Boris Halsford and Nicholas Norquist have just about 1.3 seconds between the two of them, so it is very, very close. But we're watching the battles in GT3 at the moment, and Billy Octane at this point still hounding the likes of Rudy Philmolter. And I've been in this position with Billy Octane as well before, where, you know, he's just relentless, Ryan Wolf. He just keeps going and going and going. And you know, there's drivers that, you know, they put on pressure and they go for an attack, but after, you know, a certain amount of time, they start to wear out, they start to make mistakes, and they drop off the pace. Billy Octane just, you know, he's not the fastest driver out in the pro split, but the one thing you can give him credit is he never gives up, and he seems to have the relentless persistence, you know, when challenging someone for a position late in a race.
Yeah, then the energy never runs out with Billy. It is just always there. And speaking of energy that is hotting up, Nico Kumpu trying to go around the outside. That is a long old way to go all the way around the outside of John Eraser. There's a GT4 car that is on the line that Nico Kumpu wants to take. He has to brake and adjust it. That just gets John Eraser that little bit more gap. These are the type of battles, you know, that towards the end, everyone is scrambling for position, and in the background, that is Wolf Matuszka trying to clamp down on the battle.
Yeah, and of course, you know, the top 6 still need to serve their mandatory pit stop. They've only got 4 minutes and 10 seconds remaining of the pit window to go and serve that mandatory pit stop. So they've got to think about doing that sooner rather than later. And oh, we've got one of them in as we speak. It is John Eraser. So he managed to get that overtake done on Nico Kumpu and has now decided that he wants to go in and serve that pit stop. The likes of Kumpu and Matuszka will stay out. And what John Eraser will be hoping for now is that Kumpu and Matuszka will get into a scrap for just about a lap to help him try and build somewhat of a gap when he comes back out. And here is Billy Octane on the outside of Rudy Philmolter towards the end of the Mistral Straight. He has finally got the move done. Will he give it away through the long sweeper? No, seems to get the car turned in and bites well. And Billy Octane has finally got his way past the number 99, and I'm sure both of them will enjoy that in the post-race lounge after the race.
And that was the one corner, you know, we saw that Billy was very, very capable of passing, you know, the 99. It was just that one corner every time that would give it away. And actually, you can see with the increased downforce from the setup that Billy's running, just managing to, you know, to pull a bit of a gap from the 99. I think Sector 1 will only just increase that, and you're only going to have a few laps left to mount an attack. But Billy as well, not only good at attacking, good at defending when he, you know, when he knows where to go and how the car is handling. Another driver that I know I definitely want to have to attack for a long period of time.
Looking further back, this is Nico Kuizma on Sabaceres at the moment. This battle has continued on since Nico Kuizma came out of the pit lane for serving their drive-through for track limits. This is the battle for 16th place, and Carlos Calatiad a bit up the road. And in fact, these two are within 5 seconds of Calatiad, so this is technically a battle for 15th, as once those penalties are sorted out with the post-race timer, they will be ahead of the number 30 Lamborghini. So, you know, fighting for every point that they can at this stage. And Harry Conway and Wolf Matuszka are both in the pit lane. They've come in to serve their mandatory pit stops. Wolf Matuszka is up and rolling again. Harry Conway's just come to his pit box now. He'll stop briefly, take a tiny bit of fuel, and then get that car rolling again. And he should come out now in a very, very nice pocket of air. He's got no one around him at this stage. He has the likes of Matuszka and Eraser behind him. Kumpu, Schumann and Torvinen all need to pit, and 2 of those top 3 have 15-second penalties to serve.
Yeah, so there you go. It's going to look like it will be, you know, a great one for Harry Conway. No traffic to deal with, no nothing. And if anything, sometimes the 15 seconds in the pace can feel, you know, just like an eternity, because you've got to get back up to speed as well. And here, I thought this battle might come to a, you know, sort of come to our light right at the end of the race. The little Alpines have managed to find one another. You kept seeing Mikael Sundstrom in the background, just creeping in to the little Alpine as well. BMW squeezes through. But it's going to be Alpine on Alpine, and two drivers who really know how to drive it.
And Mikael Sundstrom and Nicholas Nordqvist right towards the end of the race will be putting on a little bit of a show for the French fans and the French manufacturer out here. Of course, it is the only French manufacturer we have on the grid, and you know, out at the home circuit here today. Not a circuit that particularly suits the car, but definitely has been an enjoyable race for the two of them. I am sure they've done their best to get this little car around the circuit and coming together right towards the end of the race. Almost very fitting for two lone Alpines on the grid that we have out here. Of course, there is also Eric Engman in the Alpine, but he's not present here tonight, so he isn't around to join in on the Alpine battle and make it a three-way. But here we go. Oh, Ethan Scott getting all out of shape through sickness, and hey, let's have a look on board here, see what happens. Just see the car, and wow, does an incredible job to save it. But that will allow William Stephenson to get past and go through, and then another bit of a battle that we see here as Harry Conway goes past the likes of Jarkko Torvinen, who's come out of the pit lane. He served that 15-second penalty with his mandatory pit stop, and he has done so with less than a minute left in the race. So they've all come out, they've all served their mandatory pit stops, but unless Harry Conway makes a mistake now, I think it's all done and dusted for the win in GT3.
Yeah, I think for the win in GT3, that will be that, and it looks like as well GT4. Bart Matcher, despite, you know, the some of the taps that we've seen happen to him, has managed to pull out from Klaus Nearing. Well, kind of while we haven't been looking, gap on that is, you know, it's a 6.9 second. Once again, in the last lap, I think that was just a bridge too far. But here comes Ethan Scott up again, once up the inside of Stevenson. Will be the better line for the first half of this corner, and Stevenson will actually give that corner up. Sometimes you can hold it around the outside, but I think he's thinking of the bigger picture here. You still have that monumental straight, and you've only maybe got a couple of times left to do it.
Well, big drama here towards the end. Nico Kumpu missed the pit window by 2 seconds towards the end. So that means that he hasn't fulfilled his mandatory pit stop right towards the end of the race. That's going to be a penalty for the 256 post-race. But this man right here, he's avoided all the penalties here today, and he has kept it nice and clean, both track limits and door-to-door. And that means that in round 2 of the Euromasters, we're going to have 2 wins for 2 different manufacturers. Harry Conway in the RR29 Lamborghini will cross the line victorious in round 2 here at Paul Ricard. It will be a Lamborghini 1-2 as well, with Jarkko Torvinen crossing the line, and John Eraser in the 699 will make it a BMW podium. Wolf misses out on a podium in the Monday Championship for the first time in 2 seasons. And, well, Andy Boardman and Benjamin Schumann will cross the line as well, 5th and 6th. Kumpu crosses the line. He'll get that 2-minute penalty added onto his race time. That means that the likes of Jake Boswell, Ethan Scott, and William Stevenson, who finished in the top 10, will all be promoted up 1, and Thibaut Roskam will go up into the top 10 at the end of the race as well. In GT4, it is Bart Matcher to make it 2 different winners in the GT4 class for 2 different manufacturers as well. A fantastic race from Bart Matcher to really recover the poor start he had to the season. Klaus Nearing makes it 2nd place, and Christopher Verstappen for 3 different manufacturers on the podium in the GT4 class. Henneberg and Daly rounding out the top 5 in GT4.
And we've been informed as well. We think actually the 555 here of Kingston Lee, they've run out of fuel. Yeah, the engine's gone. They've run out of fuel on the last lap.
No.
Just a slight miscalculation. Literally, that is in a GT4 car. That is 1 or 2 liters. Just extra. Enough,
Someone's got to give him a push.
uh,
So,
just a splash, but come on, so some of the GT3 cars that have finished, anyone on the back straight, just push this poor Porsche across the
I
line.
was going to say, just don't run into the back of him. It's the one thing I'm hoping for right now. They're on the back of the Mistral straight as Rudy Philmolter comes beyond as well. And I'm not sure if any of the GT3s are actually aware of the fact that the 555 is out of fuel. And oh, that is gutting for Matthew Kingston Lee, but it shows you the fine margins. I wonder if Nico Kuzma is
Yep,
out of fuel as well, actually. He's actually crossed the line and finished the race, though. Don't panic for Nico Kuzma's sake. He has actually finished, but doesn't look like the number 12 has enough to finish his in lap. And
he,
Matthew Kingston Lee, he's still going.
he's
I mean,
still rolling.
the car's still rolling, but you have to go uphill here, and this is the problem when you're out of fuel. And Andros Sarka's run into the same problem. So there isn't anyone that can push the 555 back towards the end of the race. So, unfortunately for Matthew Kingston Lee,
Oh, but he's got the momentum. Look, he's still going, and if you can make it past this point, which is probably the hardest point when you're out of fuel, and there you go.
no,
He has
no,
finally run out of momentum from where he ran out of fuel all the way to there, up the hill, around the corner, and into sector 3. That is a heroic effort, you must admit.
oh, you hate to see it, but for Matthew Kingston Lee, just not enough, unfortunately, to make it to the end. But my word, we had everything towards the end of the race, didn't we? And it has been a fantastic show. The first 2 rounds of the Euromasters Season 2 have not disappointed. And my word, well, it's going to be interesting going into round 3 with Harry Conway picking up a win and Wolf Matuszka being relegated to 4th in the race results. Well, how will that affect the championship standings? We'll have to find out in a week's time as well. As for the Euromasters, it will continue, of course, next week. We'll be heading back to Italy for the 3rd round of the championship. We'll be going to Monza, the Temple of Speed. I'm sure the Lamborghinis will be glad about that. The BMWs and the lone Porsche less so, but they'll have their own tracks on the calendar later in the year. Big thank you to our partners and sponsors here at Racing Club International, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. Of course, Race Department, you can check out all the sim racing news and mods on their website. AK Informatica is where we host our servers for races, so if you want some great servers to host races on, you can check out AK Informatica. Driver 61, you can win like a pro, like Harry Conway himself, in fact. So you can get 25% off access to their Sim Racing Academy by using the RCI discount code in the description down below. Fanatec, you already know plenty about them. They make some excellent sim racing equipment alongside the new CSL DT wheelbase, and using our affiliate link, you can support RCI at no extra cost. And Sim Racing GP, you're looking for a new place to race, perhaps in a different sim, or maybe you're looking to set up a small community of your own for your friends someday. Check out Sim Racing GP. They have a fantastic platform for doing exactly that. Well, it has been an eventful race, and we will look forward to the 3rd round of the season here on Monday nights. We have a race coming up on Thursday. The first round of the GT4 Championship gets underway to start their season. It's season 6 of the GT4 Challenge, and they're starting out at Misano as well. So another Italian track for you to enjoy. The Friday Championship returns as well on a Friday night, and you'll be able to catch their round 3 at Misano as well, which is same calendar for the GT4 and the GT3 championships. On Saturday, Nightel will be returning as well with its usual live stream, and you'll be able to catch the 3rd round of that particular championship, where they will be heading out towards Brands Hatch in the UK. But we will be back at Monza in a week's time. From myself, from Ryan Mawson, from Stewie, and all the stewards here at RCI, we do thank you for watching this evening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you at Monza.
There are for now.